Cyber warfare, America's silent weapon. In the late 1980s, a quiet revolution began in the shadowed halls of power. No cannons roared, no bombs fell, yet a storm was gathering across invisible networks. America, already a superpower on land, sea, and sky, now sought dominion over the digital realm. The idea was simple, yet terrifying. A weapon that could strike without warning, unseen and unheard. Early pioneers, working behind locked doors, tapped into nascent computer networks. They envisioned systems that could infiltrate a foreign power's infrastructure silently, efficiently, lethally. The world outside remained oblivious. Daily life carried on, blissfully unaware of a new battlefield forming. Power grids, communication lines, financial systems, everything could become a target in this hidden war. By 1990, whispers of these digital strategies reached the corridors of Congress. Top officials were both enthralled and fearful of what this silent weapon could achieve. A single line of code, a carefully timed signal, could disrupt a nation's heartbeat without a single soldier. The concept seemed almost fantastical, yet the engineers and analysts knew it was inevitable. In secret laboratories, computers hummed like quiet sentinels of a coming age. Every keystroke might be a strike, every network a potential battlefield waiting to be claimed. CIA operatives began to see networks not just as tools for communication, but as gateways to power. NSA analysts imagined the consequences of a world where digital infiltration became the ultimate leverage. Some of the first experiments were crude by modern standards, yet they laid the foundation for an era of unseen conflicts, intrusions into foreign communications, testing vulnerabilities, probing defenses, all done without leaving a trace. The thrill was intoxicating, yet a shadow of doubt hung over these early architects of digital war. Could humanity wield such invisible power responsibly? Or was this a Pandora's box in code? Every breakthrough deepened the mystery. The more they learned, the more elusive the implications became. A single misstep could escalate silently, turning a harmless simulation into a geopolitical crisis. By 1992, prototypes of cyber weapons were ready for clandestine deployment. Engineers and operatives alike felt the weight of history pressing upon their shoulders. The silent weapon promised both protection and terror, a duality that no human had ever controlled before. And yet, there was no fanfare, no trumpet of victory, only the quiet hum of machines in darkened rooms. In that silence, the future of warfare was being written, one invisible line of code at a time. America's new dominion was not over territories or oceans, but over the unseen, intangible networks of the world. It was a battlefield without sound, a war without borders, yet more potent than any army could imagine. Every city, every capital, every critical system, potentially within reach of those who knew the secrets. The pioneers moved cautiously, aware that discovery could mean catastrophe, yet driven by ambition. They were artists and soldiers, writers and spies, sculpting a reality that the world was not ready to see. By the mid-1990s, the first successful operations had been executed quietly, without detection. A foreign power's communication disrupted for mere hours, but the precedent had been set forever. The silent weapon had come alive, a ghost in the wires, a shadow in the circuits, yet completely invisible. Its creators understood that history would remember nothing, yet the world might never be the same. And so, a new age began, not with the clash of armies, but with the quiet whisper of electrons, a weapon that existed in shadows, shaping destinies with no one watching and no one knowing. The wind of change had begun to blow, invisible yet unstoppable, carrying with it the promise of both power and peril. America's silent weapon had been born, and the world was unknowingly entering a new era of warfare. By the late 1990s, the quiet experiments of the previous decade had matured into a shadowy arsenal. The digital frontier was no longer theoretical. It had become a battlefield where nations clashed unseen. America's first confirmed cyber operations targeted the industrial heart of foreign powers. Sensitive networks controlling energy, communications, and finance became the silent objective of covert intrusions. The engineers and operatives, once scientists, now played a dangerous game of espionage in cyberspace. Each keystroke was a calculated move. Each packet of data a potential strike that could alter the fate of nations. Early incursions were cautious, designed to test vulnerabilities without drawing attention or retaliation. One successful probe could reveal weaknesses that armies and diplomats had failed to uncover for decades. In 1998, the first known large-scale intrusion disrupted communications as in a foreign government office. No alarms were sounded publicly, no soldiers marched in protest. Yet the message was clear. Networks were vulnerable. NSA analysts meticulously logged every anomaly, tracing digital footprints that led deeper into foreign systems. The thrill of success was matched only by the fear of exposure, for discovery could spark an international crisis. Meanwhile, the CIA expanded its vision, integrating cyber capabilities into traditional intelligence operations. Agents learned to manipulate networks to gather secrets, influence outcomes, and shape decisions from the shadows. Each mission reinforced the realization that wars could be fought silently, without tanks, bombs, or bloodshed. The silent battlefield was cleaner, faster, and more unpredictable than any conventional war fought on land or sea. By the turn of the century, cyber operations were no longer experimental. They were strategic instruments of national power. Operations targeted infrastructure critical to governance, such as power grids, transportation systems, and communication networks. Stuxnet, although years away, had its origins in these first forays. Precision strikes, carefully concealed, designed to disrupt. Engineers tested the limits of access, learning to insert code that could operate for months without detection. In 1999, one operation caused a blackout in a small foreign city, sparking confusion and panic. The world would never know the cause. To them, it was a simple technical failure. Yet the operation demonstrated the weapon's potential. Operators faced a paradox. Their success depended on remaining invisible, yet the impact of their work could be enormous. A minor disruption could cascade, causing economic and political instability, far beyond the original objective. The first cyber battles taught valuable lessons. Patience, precision, and the power of uncertainty were as important as technology. Unlike conventional armies, cyber operatives could win by knowing more, moving faster, and striking without warning. This new form of warfare demanded secrecy more than valor, intelligence more than force. Every successful intrusion was a story untold, a victory invisible to the public eye, yet shaping history in profound ways. America's silent weapon had evolved from concept to a tool capable of reshaping the balance of global power. It was no longer merely defensive, it had become a strategic instrument, wielded with discretion and relentless calculation. The stakes were higher than ever. Each operation carried the risk of exposure, retaliation, or miscalculation with global consequences. Yet the promise of control over an unseen battlefield proved irresistible to those who understood its potential. By the early 2000s, the first coordinated campaigns were underway, blending intelligence, sabotage, and influence operations. Cyber operatives became ghosts in foreign networks, striking at the heart of power without leaving footprints for ordinary observers. The thrill of the first victories was intoxicating, but each success deepened the enigma of this silent weapon. It was a force that could create fear, confusion, and instability, yet remained invisible to the very societies it could affect. As the world marched into a new millennium, the first battles in cyberspace set the stage for conflicts unseen and unimagined. America's invisible army had proven its worth, and the battlefield had shifted from fields and cities to circuits and data streams. The silent war had begun, and the world, oblivious, continued on, unaware that the rules of conflict had changed forever. The stakes were no longer measured in territory or soldiers, but in the power to manipulate the unseen threads that connected nations. As the new millennium unfolded, the architects of America's silent weapons stepped fully into the shadows. The CIA and NSA, once focused on traditional espionage, now embrace networks as the ultimate theater of operations. Analysts and operatives moved like phantoms, mapping foreign systems with painstaking precision. Every cable, every server, every connection was a potential doorway into the heart of another nation. By 2002, a network of clandestine units coordinated operations with unprecedented secrecy. Each team specialized in infiltration, surveillance, disruption, and manipulation, all without leaving visible traces. The first known cross-border operations blurred the line between intelligence gathering and digital attack. Foreign governments remained unaware that their most sensitive systems were under constant observation. NSA cryptographers worked tirelessly to crack codes and intercept communications, while CIA officers planned strategic incursions. Together, they created a synergy of technology and human skill that became nearly unstoppable. Early successes were meticulous and invisible, communications disrupted, sensitive files copied, vulnerabilities cataloged. No one outside the agencies knew these victories existed, and that was precisely the point of the silent weapon. In 2003, operatives infiltrated a foreign energy network, mapping control systems for potential intervention. The operation lasted months, executed with patience and discretion, proving the immense reach of digital power. Each mission carried ethical and strategic dilemmas. How far could one nation manipulate another without consequences? Yet the allure of influence, control, and intelligence was irresistible to those who understood the stakes. By 2004, a digital arms race had begun. Other nations were developing similar capabilities in secret. America's silent weapon became both shield and spear, protecting its interests while projecting unseen power abroad. Operatives learned to navigate the delicate balance between aggression and concealment, knowledge and restraint. Mistakes could be catastrophic, yet every calculated success strengthened the perception of American omnipresence in cyberspace. CIA officers began to integrate cyber operations with traditional field missions, creating hybrid strategies of influence. Agents could plant misinformation, intercept decisions, or disable critical systems without ever being seen. NSA engineers focused on defensive capabilities, protecting domestic infrastructure while surveilling potential adversaries. The duality of offense and defense became central to America's approach, making the silent weapon both flexible and formidable. The era of nameless digital strikes revealed a new dimension of warfare: no bodies, no explosions, yet global consequences. One well-placed intrusion could cripple an economy, confuse a military, or sway political decisions without leaving evidence. By 2005, the first known attempts to combine cyber operations with psychological influence were underway. Social networks, financial systems, and communication channels became instruments of subtle manipulation across borders. The secrecy surrounding these operations was absolute. Even within government, only select officials knew the full scope. The silent weapon thrived in this veil of shadows, its impact growing while the world remained oblivious. For the operatives, the work was a constant tension between brilliance and danger, strategy and moral ambiguity. Each successful mission reinforced the myth: in the digital realm, visibility was vulnerability, and silence was power. America's silent weapon had taken on a life of its own, a force as intangible as it was decisive. CIA and NSA operatives had become custodians of a power unseen, shaping events without recognition, applause, or accountability. The world continued unaware, living lives connected by networks now secretly traversed by invisible hands. Every keystroke, every signal, every intercepted byte was part of a game with stakes higher than any conventional war. By the mid-2000s, the silent weapon was no longer experimental or exploratory. It was central to national security. And, as the architects looked forward, they understood the truth. The face of modern warfare had changed forever. America's invisible hand moved confidently in the shadows, guiding outcomes, observing rivals' woe, and defending secrets. The battlefield had no borders. The warriors left no footprints. And yet the consequences were real, immediate, and profound. By 2006, the silent weapon had matured into a force capable of striking with precision and discretion. Networks once thought secure were now battlefields, and every digital pulse could carry the weight of war. America's cyber operatives moved like shadows, striking at the heart of critical infrastructure abroad. Power grids, communication networks, and financial systems became theaters of invisible conflict, unseen by the world. Early operations were surgical, testing both technology and human ingenuity to exploit weaknesses quietly. One successful intrusion could cause disruption for hours, or even days, without a single human casualty. The thrill of success was matched by the constant fear of exposure, for discovery could ignite international tensions. NSA analysts monitored foreign systems continuously, mapping every route, every vulnerability, every opportunity. CIA officers coordinated in tandem, using intelligence to guide strikes and anticipate responses from unseen adversaries. The interplay of attack and defense became a delicate dance, with each side anticipating the moves of the other. By 2007, Stuxnet's blueprint had been conceived, blending malware precision with political intent. Engineers learned to insert code that could lie dormant for months, activating only when specific conditions were met. Every operation required meticulous planning, patience, and absolute secrecy, as the world remained oblivious. A single error could expose capabilities, compromise objectives, and spark consequences far beyond the initial target. The silent war extended beyond borders, touching allies and adversaries alike, reshaping global power dynamics quietly. Financial markets, transportation networks, and energy grids were now vulnerable in ways never imagined before 2000. Defensive measures became equally critical, as attacks on American systems increased in frequency and sophistication. NSA cyber defenders worked tirelessly to anticipate threats, patch vulnerabilities, and safeguard national interests. By 2008, coordinated campaigns demonstrated the effectiveness of combined attack and defense. Cyber operations disrupted hostile networks while protecting American assets, creating a balance invisible to observers. The psychological dimension of these operations was profound, instilling uncertainty and fear without firing a shot. Nations began to understand that even minor digital incursions could have major strategic consequences. Operators moved with a sense of destiny, aware that their actions could reshape political landscapes silently. Each mission carried immense responsibility, for the line between deterrence and provocation was invisible but deadly. In 2009, one operation disrupted energy supply in a foreign city, leaving officials scrambling. No explanation emerged publicly. The incident was attributed to technical failures, yet it showcased the weapon's power. The silent war revealed a new form of courage, intellect over muscle, patience over aggression, invisibility over fame. Those who wielded the digital sword did so knowing that their victories might never be acknowledged or celebrated. The stakes were global, the battlefield infinite, and the consequences of error immeasurable. Yet progress pressed on. America's cyber forces had become both shield and spear, guarding the nation while projecting influence abroad. By the end of the decade, the silent war had reshaped the understanding of conflict itself. Victory no longer required armies, it required insight, speed, and mastery of the unseen threads connecting the world. As the sun set on 2009, the operatives knew the truth. The silent weapon was now indispensable. It had proven its worth in secrecy, altered global balances, and ensured that America's reach extended into every unseen corner. And so, the quiet war raged on, invisible to most, yet shaping the fate of nations, a force as potent as it was mysterious. In every city, every network, every server, The ghost of the silent weapon lingered, watching, waiting, and striking unseen. By 2010, the silent weapon had transcended its origins, evolving into a force shaping the unseen future. Networks no longer merely carried information. They had become the arteries of power and influence across the globe. America's cyber operatives had become invisible architects of history, manipulating outcomes without detection. Every keystroke, every signal, every hidden intrusion carried the weight of strategy, diplomacy, and destiny. The digital battlefield expanded rapidly, embracing new technologies once unimaginable in 2006. Artificial intelligence, automated code bait, and predictive analytics transformed operations, making them faster, smarter, and deadlier. By 2012, one operation had quietly altered the trajectory of a foreign election. No soldier marched, no protest erupted, yet a subtle shift had occurred, unseen by the world yet decisive in its outcome. NSA engineers and CIA operatives collaborated more closely than ever, blending human intuition with machine precision. Together, they created a network of influence that could affect energy grids, communication channels, and financial markets. The stakes grew exponentially. Any misstep could trigger retaliation, international scandal, or even economic collapse. Yet the allure of silent power, of reshaping events without exposure, was irresistible to those who held the keys. By 2015, the silent weapon had entered a phase no one could fully comprehend. Quantum computing, global connectivity, and the rise of social media amplified both opportunity and risk. Operatives now navigated a labyrinth where a single line of code could ripple across continents. Governments, corporations, and ordinary citizens were all participants in a conflict they could not see. The psychology of cyber warfare became as important as the technology itself, a battlefield of uncertainty. A nation could be coerced, distracted, or destabilized without a single bomb, a new art of conflict invisible to the eye. By 2018, major incidents hinted at a future where cyber dominance might determine global hegemony. Yet the true scope of operations remained hidden, known only to a select few in dimly lit rooms. America's silent weapon was no longer experimental. It had become a permanent fixture of national strategy. The balance of power rested on invisible threads, manipulated by unseen hands operating with precision and discretion. In the late 2010s, discussions emerged about ethics, governance, and the potential for catastrophic misuse. Even the creators realized that the silent weapon could alter the world irreversibly, for better or worse. The digital ghosts lingered in networks worldwide, watching, listening, and waiting for opportunity. No one could predict when or where the next strike would occur, yet its influence was already shaping events. By 2020, the world understood only fragments of the silent weapon's reach and power. Countries recognized vulnerabilities, yet few could match the sophistication and experience of America's operatives. The future remained uncertain. Artificial intelligence, global networks, and quantum computing promised even more potent tools. Yet the human element, creativity, patience, and cunning remained the most decisive factor in the silent war. As the decade drew to a close, America's silent weapon had become both guardian and enigma, protector and phantom. It held the power to prevent conflict, sway decisions, or unleash chaos, all without leaving a trace or claiming glory. And so, the story ends not with fireworks or victory parades, but with whispers in the dark, a presence felt yet unseen. The silent weapon waits, its ghosts lingering in circuits and code, shaping the fate of nations in ways no one can know. The world may never see it coming, may never know who wields it, yet it moves relentlessly forward. A force without form, without sound, yet more powerful than any army ever assembled in history. And in that quiet, invisible dominion, one truth remains. The future of warfare is silent, unseen, and inexorably real.